But we begin tonight at the end of the second day of jury selection in the criminal trial of former President Donald Trump. 7 jurors have been selected so far: a salesman, an oncology nurse, 2 attorneys, an IT consultant, a teacher, and a software engineer. 11 more are needed. That includes 6 alternates. Inside the courtroom, Donald Trump again appeared deep in contemplation at times, or perhaps slumber, with his eyes closed and his tiny mouth pursed. But outside the courtroom, the defendant attempted to try his case using his alternative facts.
I was paying a lawyer and marked it down as a legal expense. Some accountant, I didn't know, marked it down as a legal expense. That's exactly what it was. And you get indicted over that? A legal expense. It's called legal expense. That's what you're supposed to call it.
A legal expense, a legal expense. It's almost like Trump wants to ignore every single bit of context that was going on at the time. So let's just take a moment to just remember what these so-called legal expenses were all about, namely attempts to quash stories about his extramarital dalliances with women ahead of the 2016 election so as not to hurt his chances with voters. Don't take it from me. The Manhattan DA's office laid out the entire narrative in their filing at the time of Trump's indictment. The scheme began just shortly after Trump announced his presidential campaign in the summer of 2015. Not 2 months later, he was meeting at Trump Tower with his then personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, who was given a campaign email, no less, and then National Enquirer publisher David Pecker, to enter into a catch-and-kill scheme where Pecker would help flag and suppress negative stories, particularly stories involving women, from going public for the sole purpose of helping Trump's campaign. That is precisely what happened 5 months before the 2016 election, when Pecker's company, AMI, paid Playboy model Karen McDougal $150,000 to keep her from speaking out about her alleged 9-month affair with Trump, which overlapped the birth of his 5th child by his 3rd wife. In a 2018 non-prosecution agreement, AMI admitted they did it so McDougal did not publicize damaging allegations about Trump, quote, before the 2016 presidential election and thereby influence that election. And it was just a month before the election when Pecker alerted Cohen about another potential woman problem, namely adult film star Stormy Daniels, who was getting ready to speak out about her alleged affair with Trump. And in case you forgot, which is hard to do, that was at the exact time when the infamous Access Hollywood tape was released, with Trump's claims of being able to grab women by the you-know-where. And it may be even harder to remember, given Trump's spell over the Republican Party today. But Republicans, including some evangelical leaders, actually began running from Trump as a result of that tape, if ever so briefly. And that brings us to why it was so important at the time that Daniel's story not come out, and why Cohen paid her $130,000 out of his own pocket after obtaining a HELOC loan under false pretenses, which led to the false entries in Trump's business records to hide the fact that Trump was reimbursing Cohen, including from the Oval Office in 2017, for that reason. For those expenses, Cohen was indicted for making a false statement to a federally insured bank, as well as for 2 campaign finance violations. And in his plea, he said he did so in coordination with and at the direction of a candidate for federal office, a.k.a. individual number 1, a.k.a. Donald Trump. So no, Donald, those were not just legal expenses. And while you can continue to make such claims outside of court, once a jury is chosen, they will hear and see the evidence for what it is. And none of your rants in front of the cameras or late-night social media posts will change those very real facts. Joining me now is Suzanne Craig, investigative reporter for the New York Times and MSNBC contributor who was in the courthouse today. Barbara McQuade, former U.S. attorney, professor at the University of Michigan Law School, and an MSNBC legal analyst. And Tim O'Brien, senior executive editor of Bloomberg Opinion and also an MSNBC political analyst. Thank you all for being here. Suzanne, I do want to start with you. The salesman, the oncology nurse, the attorney, the IT consultant, the teacher, the software engineer, the attorney. Is this selection going about at the pace that you would have expected, just having observed other trials?
Well, if you'd asked me this morning, I would have said no. We started the morning, and they were going through the questionnaires, and it was going slowly only because there's 42 questions. And then we break for lunch, and it was very much, the morning session was very much like you would imagine jury selection to be. I've sat through a number of trials. They go through the questions. We hear people what they like to watch on TV, what they like to read. Do they have a dog? And in this, Trump's case, they're asked if they go to a Trump rally. It was long, but it was moving apace. And then we broke for lunch, and we came back, and immediately Donald Trump's side came in and said they had multiple objections to some of the jurors, and they had been scrubbing them at lunch. Although we don't know who their names are, Donald Trump and his team are given the names as well as the government is. And they had found what they said were very troubling things on some of their social media. And they
let me stop you there, because I just want to read some of them, because we've been seeing the notes going back and forth from those of you who've been in the courtroom. And I'm just going to read some of these. Some of them are jokes that were on people's social media posts. One of them was Republicans projected to pick up 70 seats in prison. There was one that was described, showed a character from The Simpsons with Trump's head in its hands. Another showed a photo of Trump and former President Barack Obama with a comment as related by the judge. It suggested it was not what orange is the new black meant. The third had an Avengers Unite Against Trump theme. And then there was one that said Trump invites the Thai boys. These were the Thai boys who died in a mining accident to the White House, and the boys requested to return to their cave. So basically Trump was flagging things that to him looked like anti-Trump social media. Go ahead.
Right. And if I was him, I'd be flagging it too. I totally got it. And there was some that were more serious than other. There was a woman who, I think she was a teacher, who lived on the Upper West Side, and they had found a video on her social media that she had taken, and it was looked like people celebrating Trump's loss in 2020. And she had some fairly innocuous comment on the top, but she was brought into the jury room. She was questioned about it, and she explained why she took the video. She said she was out. She lives in New York City. She'd gone out to do alternate side parking on the street, which I love, very New York thing. And she had seen this going on, and she videotaped it and put it on her social media feed. And the judge in that case refused to just send her packing. So there was a mixed bag. But then all of a sudden, around 2:33, we started to get what was looking like a jury together. They got 7 people that they agreed on by the end of the day. And the judge feels that if it keeps going at this pace, we have two more days. The court's dark tomorrow. 2 more days, but we could be in opening arguments Monday morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Barb, to me, this strikes me as the sign that the system is still working, because the fact is you don't want Donald Trump to have prejudice either for him or against him. In a fair trial, you don't want someone getting on that jury that simply wants to put him in prison, nor do you want a ringer to get on that jury who's getting on just for the purposes of trying to acquit him. So how would you assess how things are going? Because it does seem that anyone who would be obviously sort of anti-Trump is not getting on. How much do you think we should also worry about somebody trying to get on the jury to help him?
Having a fair jury is very important, Joy. It's also important that there be the appearance of a fair jury, because we want, at the end of the day, whatever the outcome to be here, that people felt confident in the system and that these people were fair-minded. They didn't have a bias in favor or against the defense. They gave both sides a fair shake. The fact that they were able to agree on 7 jurors already by day 2 is really pretty remarkable to me. I think I give a good bit of credit to Judge Mershon here, because he asked the jurors kind of in a blanket way about whether they had biases against Donald Trump individually or collectively, and now they're going in and asking some individual questions. I think the social media scrubbing is absolutely appropriate. People may say they can be fair, but if they have a presence on social media that have said other things, there's nothing wrong with that. People have a right to engage in political activity and say what they want on social media. It just might mean that they're not suitable for this case. Even if they think they can be fair, it might create an appearance of unfairness. Now, your question is, could somebody sort of secretly have a strong bias either for or against Donald Trump and sort of secretly get on this jury? Yeah, I mean, at some point, jurors are sworn to tell the truth in answer to these questions. They are asked a number of questions. The lawyers are looking not just at what they say, but how they say it, their mannerisms, their body language, and a number of things. But I suppose if somebody were really determined to get on this jury and had no digital paper trail of having said things strongly for or against Donald Trump, I suppose there's a possibility that somebody could sneak on.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.